It would be
Um,
great to understand how you got into this work, and also, tell me a bit about the children that you see in clinic and how you take them on a journey to heal over a period of time so that they can actually have a better, well, you can explain it, but better jaw alignment for the development of them as they go through their whole life.
sure. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my clinic first. My background is in
Hmm.
body work. Initially, I trained as a body worker, and then I moved to the UK and I entered the world of dentistry. And what I do now, I didn't learn in dentistry. It came up after. Um, I did about 25 to 30 years of dentistry as a dental hygienist and therapist towards the end. And it was with my son then that I discovered orofacial myofunctional therapy. And I'll tell you a little bit more about myofunctional therapy in a second. But the reason why I entered that world was because my son was diagnosed with ADHD and he was being offered medication. And he told me that he couldn't get along with the medication, that he was changing his personality. So, in a quest to find out exactly what was going on, because I had a child at home that didn't meet that criteria, when he was at home, he was very much in tune, very concentrated, and he was able to perform tasks. And then at school, he was overwhelmed by everything. And I came across a article by a myofunctional therapist in America that talked about sleep disorders or breathing disorders that affected sleep. And that's how I started going into this huge rabbit hole of breathing disorders and behavior changes that were caused by these breathing disorders. I found out that the snoring and the oversleeping time that he was spending and the difficulties waking him up were actually caused by the fact that he couldn't breathe properly throughout the night. And it was fascinating to me. When I started researching more and more in the topic, I found out that many of these children that couldn't sleep properly at night were actually sporting behaviors of ADHD and ASD. So that's how the whole thing started. And then my inquisitive mind, I wanted to know the root cause of it. So why is it not sleeping properly? Why is it not breathing properly? And what is stopping him from getting that full, restful sleep? And it turned out that he had a tongue tie. I now don't call them tongue ties, I call them frenulum alterations, just basically because there are so many different presentations. And I have found also that many clinicians don't actually know how to assess properly these restrictions and these alterations. And basically, what happens is when the tongue is not able to perform the job that it's supposed to do, not just for chewing, swallowing, and speech, but also for resting postures, good resting posture of the tongue, that when we fall asleep and all the muscles in our body fall asleep too, the tongue can actually obstruct the airway partially or completely. And that can cause a variation of symptoms from heavy breathing to snoring to apneas. And some people are more susceptible or they are more affected by these partial or full obstructions of the airway. And the brain can recognize the lack of oxygen when we are sleeping. And what it does is it to preserve our or safeguard us, it partially wakes us up or completely wakes us up during the night. And what was happening to my son was that he was partially waking up. So what I thought was a full sleep or quantity of the sleep wasn't actually a good quality of sleep. He was fidgety, he was moving a lot in bed, he was snoring sometimes, and I didn't know. So when I took him to be assessed by the school ordered an assessment of him, not just hearing assessment, but also the cognitive assessment that they do for ADHD. And I found out that they were not doing all these checks on breathing. They were not doing checks on sleep. They actually found it quite amazing that I was actually requesting a sleep study. Did you check the sleep? Did you check the airway? And they were, no, what has it got to do with anything? And I ended up taking him away from the clinic completely and treating him for myofunctional disorders instead. So I went through lots of training because in the UK we had nobody
very
at that
few
point.
people. Yeah.
Very few people. So I set up the first clinic in myofunctional therapy, and within a year I set up the society for myofunctional therapy. And myofunctional therapy it differs from myofascial therapy in a sense that myofascial therapy is manual release of tissues to increase range of motion and to reduce tension. Myofunctional therapy is the repatterning and the re-education of the muscles that support
Just
the
a whole
orofacial.
lot more.
It's a lot more. So what we do in our clinic is we do a bit of myofascial work by opening up the fascia, elongating the muscles that have been affected by dysfunction, and then we tone them up and repattern the functions of those muscles so they can support the orofacial structure properly.